Good day, everyone. My name is Jeline Buyan Gumanoy, and today I will be discussing about food dehydration. So, what is food dehydration? If you guys are not familiar, please stick to this video as I will tackle what is food dehydration or what is food drying. But before that, let us have our learning objectives first. So at the end of this lesson, students will be able to identify correctly the different methods and equipment used in dehydrating food, handle and store dried food products carefully to ensure the longest possible shelf life, and describe the packaging requirements for foods dehydrated by various dehydration methods. So let us have the introduction. So when we say dehydration, it is when we lose more fluid in our body, right? And in food, it is the removal of water by evaporation to obtain a solid product sufficiently low in water content. So food dehydration is one of the oldest unit operations used by the food processing industry, and it does not include removal of moisture by mechanical pressing or concentration of liquid foods. The process of food dehydration involves simultaneous transfer of mass and heat within the food and the medium used to transfer energy to the food. Examples of food to dry are thin slices of meat, small fishes such as dillies, fruits and vegetables, yogurt, and even pet food. So if you dry thicker or larger pieces of meat, it should be salted first to avoid deterioration before it can be dried enough. So there are factors affecting the rate of drying. These are humidity, surface area, temperature, air velocity, ventilation or moist outlet, and atmospheric pressure and vacuum. So why do we need to dry or dehydrate food? So the principal reason for drying and dehydration is preservation. Other benefits are decrease in weight and bulk, thus making it easier to transport and handle. Convenience, like dried beverages such as dried coffee, dried soup mixes, and dried fruits, are example of very easy to use food products. And shelf stable, so dried foods can be kept and at ambient temperature. So all methods of drying involve two simultaneous processes: getting heat into the food or the heat transfer, and getting the water out of the food or the mass transfer. Drying conditions do not always favor both processes. In fact, some conditions may favor one while hindering the other. It is critical in food drying to finish the drying process as quickly as possible to minimize losses in desirable product characteristics such as color, flavor, and nutritional value. So the stages of drying are constant rate period and falling rate period. Constant rate period is the period during which the rate of diffusion of free water to the surface exceeds the rate of evaporation, while falling rate period is achieved when the droplet surface is not saturated anymore, and drying was controlled by internal mass transfer of the volatile solvent to the surface. So here are some examples of drying methods and equipment. First is sun drying. Sun drying is the evaporation of water from products by sun or solar heat, assisted by movement of surrounding air. It is a gentle process involving a simple reaction of the sun's heat within your food. To be successful, it demands a rainless season of bright sunshine and temperature above 98 degrees Fahrenheit coinciding with the period of the product maturity. Next is solar drying. Solar drying is a stepwise process which mainly depends on fluctuating solar radiation. It uses equipment to collect the sun's rays in a unit designed to ventilate moisture. Next is roller or drum dryers. Drum drying involves heat transfer from condensing steam at 120 to 170 degrees Celsius through slowly rotating hollow drums to a layer of concentrated product on the outside of the drums. It is a continuous process that creates dry powders and flakes from a liquid feedstock. The liquid feed is sprayed onto air or in between two rotating drums. The drums are heated in eternally with steam to increase the surface temperature. Next to roller dryer is fluidized bed dryer. A fluidized bed dryer, also called a fluid bed dryer, is a process equipment used extensively to reduce the moisture content of food, pharmaceutical, chemical powder, or granules. It operates by balancing the downward gravity forces of the weight of the particles in the charge with the upward forces created by high gas flow. Next is we have tray or cabinet dryer. Tray dryers are used for batch drying of solid foods at small to moderate scale. They are inexpensive and simple to construct. Tray dryers consist of a closed compartment in which are placed trays containing the food to be dried. Other drying methods and equipment include spray dryers, pneumatic dryers, rotary dryers, trough dryers, bin dryers, belt dryers, freeze dryers, vacuum dryers, foam mat dryers, cold drying, and oil drying or fan frying. So now let's proceed to testing for dryness. So in commercial drying processes, a test tray is designated and is removed for weighing at predetermined intervals. It is assumed that the weight loss is due to water loss. However, prior trials are required to determine the expected weight loss. Be especially cautious of losing solid particles, which could result in erratic results. Moisture testing instruments used in large scale operations are extremely useful. For small scale operators or home processing, very practical methods of testing are used. Dryness is determined by squeezing a few pieces of the product. If the pieces of fruit spring apart and there is no moisture left on your hand when you open it, then drying is complete. To double check, cut through a piece of fruit, there should be no moisture on the inside. Dried foods should be pliable and leathery. For vegetables, mostly will be hard and brittle when completely dry. Exemptions are mushrooms, green peppers, squash, which will be pliable and leathery. Herbs, on the other hand, require 2 to 3 days to dry when air dried and 2 to 3 hours in a cabinet dryer. Herbs are dried when they are brittle and the leaves can be easily crushed. Small fishes are tested by pinching the head part. If the flesh still yields, and especially if liquid is squeezed out, the fish is not yet dry. So, when the testing is done and the food is already dry, we can now proceed to packaging and storing. So, packaging and storing. After the food has been thoroughly dried, cooled, and conditioned, it can be packaged and stored properly. Depending on the product characteristics, the target shelf life, and the destination of the product, a suitable material can be chosen. It could be rigid, semi rigid, or a flexible packaging. So, that is all for this topic. To test if you really understand what is being discussed, please answer the activity below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned a lot. Thank you and God bless.